So one day someone commented on my video with a pool of millions of Orbeez that I should fill this car up with Orbeez, so that's what I'm going to do. So with the help of my friend Brennan, we transferred a bunch of the Orbeez into this car. I got in, and this is what it looked like. It was really cool. The Orbeez felt like a seat cushion. Look at them flying when I was driving. It was crazy. My legs were completely underwater in Orbeez, and they were just flying everywhere. I kept on driving all around, and then I decided to open up one of the doors to see what it looked like, and it was really cool looking. And then it slammed on me, and they flew at me. I let some out here, and then ran them over, and then drove off. So it's now part 47 of the giant rubber band ball. I let it hit a ramp and then got out 25 pounds of bands, dumped them all out into a pile, and started placing them. And this was a lot of bands, the most I've ever placed. So I thought, how could I do this more efficiently? And I had the idea, pay someone. So I paid 2 friends that day to finish up this pile. And they got busy placing a lot of bands while I watched occasionally and then switched in and out even once. But then they kept going until eventually they had a much smaller pile left and just threw that pile on and it was done. And it now weighs 213 pounds. And I also decided to spray paint it because I saw a comment that told me to. Like if I should keep going. So I'm now to rubber band ball part 49 and I have 25 pounds of rubber bands again. I dumped out the whole pile and when we began placing for a long time, as you can tell by the clouds going by in the background, this took forever. But eventually we got the entire pile done. And the ball is completely massive. I weighed it in at 263 pounds and look at me sitting on it and then falling and we can barely pick it up together. Like if you want me to keep on adding bands. Now rubber band ball part 81 and I bought this new scale that weighs up to 5,000 pounds. It weighed the ball in at 990 pounds and today we're going to get it over 1,000 pounds. I also wanted to try some different strategies, these big mover bands and looping these 12-inch bands. I thought looping these 12-inch bands sounded the easiest because you could just loop them together and then wrap them around. We dumped out a bunch of bands like this and then started looping. We looped for a while and decided to go ahead and place one on and it looked pretty good, so we kept on going until we had the entire pile finished. We ended up with these 2 giant links of bands. We wrapped one all the way around it, which made me kind of dizzy, and then wrapped the other one until we were done. And the ball looked pretty good. We weighed it in over 1,000 pounds finally. I was pretty excited. So now we just got to get to the new world record. Like if I should keep going. So one day I bought this $100 leaky metal boat and I had my brother help me saw a big hole in it to take this Plexan glass and put it in with flex tape. And I got to flex taping in hopes of making my dream glass bottom boat. The front looked really solid, so we flipped it over and did the back as well. After that we let it set for a few days and then took it out to the pond. I felt ready to conquer my dreams. I pulled the boat onto the water and it seemed to be holding up pretty well. Look at it, it's amazing. I looked for some fishies inside the water but didn't see any. I wanted to travel all the way through the bridge and back, but water started leaking in the boat. But I remained calm and rowed back to shore to dump some of the water out and give it another shot. But then my brother really wanted to go, so I let him try. He did surprisingly well, rowing out very strong. And then this kayak passed him. He kept on rowing in my epic boat, and just like that, he was across, but a lot of water was getting in. So he made it back and then celebrated. So one day I decided to make a giant paper airplane out of this board stuff. And my first design was just a basic airplane that had a problem of the nose going up. Except for this one flight that did really good for some reason. But I looked up on the internet and there were some ways to fix this with this type of design that kind of helped. But I ended up making a whole nother plane with a slightly different design, taking them to this cliffside. I first tested the planes off this little hill and they did pretty decent, and then I threw him off the cliff, and the first one just kind of went and then nosedived, and the second one went up, and then also nosedived. And I took him back up and tried again, and the first one was doing really good until it flew in the tree, and the second one was doing really good until the wind picked up a lot and made it nosedive. The planes eventually fell out of the tree, and I had a few more good flights, including this one. So I think I'm just going to wait for a less windy day and try again. So after trying and failing to fix dents with hot glue, my comment section was filled with people telling me to let it cool down for even longer. So that's what I'm going to do. Here I am. Here's the time lapse of it cooling all the way until I didn't even have to touch it. And I then pulled it off and it didn't work. However, it is a pretty big dent. But there's other comments that said to try a plunger, so I tried that for a long time too, using fire and this plunger. This one might have worked if it was a smaller dent, so don't try this at home. So it's giant rubber band ball part 82, and I got a sample amount of these giant green rubber bands to test them out. They work really well, but for now I only have these rubber bands. The ball's just over 1,000 pounds, and these bands barely work anymore. They're way too tight. We had to prop the ball up as tall as possible to even fit the bands, but after a long time we were done with the entire pile. It's a little wonky, but here it is. Then here's me jumping on it, rolling around a little bit, and jumping off. And it was time to weigh it in. We got it on the scale, and it was going back and forth between 1,020 and 1,040, like if I should keep on going. So it's rubber band ball part 86, and my My giant 1,100-pound rubber band ball needs more bands to get heavier. We dumped out 25 pounds of these bands to loop around the ball. And we have to loop all the bands now because these bands are too small to stretch around the ball. And bigger bands than this are way too expensive and really hard to find. But eventually we finished looping the entire piles, which is the longest part, but then began the shortest part, which is just looping and looping until we were done. Then we started on the other one and looped it until it was done. Tied it, and here it is. We rolled it across the warehouse, rolled it off the ramp, and the ball should be around 1,125 pounds, like for me to keep going. So one day someone commented that I should make a second rubber band ball, and I already have 3. This one, and my giant one. This one's huge. I can sit on it, but not sit on the other ones because they weigh 0.6 pounds and 15 pounds. Well, the giant one is 777 pounds, but I'm still waiting on a shipment of bands, so I'm going to add on to the other one. I just grabbed a bunch of random bands at Walmart, then went back to the warehouse, threw the ball on the table, dumped out a bunch of bands, and got to placing. I started with all the colored bands to make it look really cool, and it did. It ended up looking like this. It was cool. Then I moved on to these ones to make it really tight and compact. And after a while, I was done. Here it is. Rolled it off the table and compared it next to the giant ball, then my head, and then threw it as high as I could. And it's pretty bouncy and weighs 17 pounds. Like if I should keep doing this ball too. So I'm now all the way to rubber band ball part 48. I dumped out 5 5-pound bags of rubber bands and got to placing. With some help because this was going to take a long time alone and this was a lot of bands. We kept placing and eventually had all the blue paint covered. And then eventually we got tired and took a break and then came back and finished off the entire pile until there was no bands left. Put it on the scale and it weighed in at almost 240 pounds. And it takes 2 people to pick it up. Like if I should keep on adding bands to it. So one day I rented a one-man bucket lift to drop my 160-pound rubber band ball on top of stuff. And the first time I went up, I just dropped it on nothing to see how it would bounce. And here it was. Bounced pretty high. And remember, don't try this at home. Then we got out this car to smash. Here's the slow-mo. It put a pretty big dent in the roof. Then my dad went up and dropped it on it. And it put another pretty big dent in the roof. Then I moved onto the windshield and completely caved it in. Here's that slow-mo. And then I did it again. Here's an inside perspective. Yeah, the car was pretty crushed. And then I dropped Mentos and Coke. And this one was the best rocket I ever done in my life. Just look at it. Like if I should crush some more stuff. So it's rubber band ball part 72, and the ball's a little messed up from a video that's not out yet, but it still weighs 775 pounds, so we're going to keep on adding bands. And this time I got these special blue bands. And we began fixing up the ball and making it look cooler with these blue bands. And we kept on rotating it, that way the bands would be spread more evenly, and it would be easier to place the bands. And after a very long time, we were done. I about crashed into the wall, then jumped on it, and dropped my phone. And this ball is completely insane. Here's next to the little ball next to me, and then I struggled to put it on the scale. But got it and waited at over 800 pounds, like if I should keep on going. So one day it was rubber band ball part 91, and today we're going to get it over 1,200 pounds. We opened these rubber bands perfectly normally, and then we just started looping the giant pile like we normally do. And I'm in the works to get a ton more rubber bands because we're going to have to really increase the production rate if we want to ever beat that world record. We wrapped both strands around, 1 and then 2, like this. And there you can see all the bands we placed. Looks like a ring. I jumped on the ball and stood on it. Looked really cool. Then pushed it forward a little bit and threw another rubber band ball at it. So, like if you want me to keep on adding rubber bands. So one day I decided to buy 2 giant pumpkins, one 500 pounds and the other 250 pounds. We took them on a trailer to the warehouse and then scooted them off into the beanbag and then onto the floor. This one was the hardest, weighing 500 pounds. But we got them all off, and here they are compared to my 800-pound rubber band ball. We weighed this one to be sure, and it was 240. But this one was too heavy to weigh. We flipped up the 300-pound pumpkin and dumped out a bunch of giant rubber bands to try to place them all around it. We were going to see if we could cut it clean in half. And like 30 seconds after I got up, it started to buckle in and did this. I lifted up the top, and there was a wad of giant messy rubber bands and a vine. It looked really cool inside, and then I decided to dump out a bunch of little rubber bands to place around this one and tighten it up so I could make a cool ball, but it didn't really bounce very well. Let me know what I should do to the other pumpkin. So one day I bought this giant slingshot to launch random stuff. I taped this side to the tree and then the other, and it was ready to launch. So I filled up a box of water balloons, put one in, and it launched pretty good. Then the next one hit a tree. Then I had my brother stand back and shot him in his direction, and then almost hit him a few times. This one was right past him. And here's the first person. I put it in, pull it back, and launch it. Then I went to Walmart to get some pumpkins to try to launch them. I went home, and it wasn't working very well. This was my best launch. So I got mad, got on the zip line, and threw it at a tree. Then took the broken pieces and tried to launch them, and they actually did pretty well. Here's another one. Then I had some little pumpkins I also tried, and almost hit my brother. Here it is from behind, flying in the air. And here's another first-person launch. Let me know what else I should try. It's part 92 of my giant 1,200-pound rubber band ball, and we're going to add 2 boxes, which is 50 pounds, and more than we've ever added in one video. We had all the bands ready, which was a lot, and we were ready to just loop them all. I'm slowly going to be bumping up my rate of production, that way we can eventually get the world record. We looped the entire pile until it looked like this, then wrapped each strand around the ball. There's 25 pounds, and here's another 25 pounds wrapped completely around the rubber band ball. And my phone just doesn't justify how big this ball is. It is so insane and so hard to move. The ball should weigh around 1,250 pounds now, and it's really tall. To give you an idea, I'm 6'1", and here's me jumping on it. Like if you want me to keep on adding bands to beat the world record. So this rubber band ball is just completely insane now. We dumped out all these bands to place on the ball and got busy looping each one. We looped the pile into 2 big strands of bands like this. It's really hard to move, but we pushed it to the center, and then we're starting to place the big loops of bands like this. And these videos cost a lot to make, so it's really helpful when you like and comment on it. My phone just doesn't do this ball justice of how big it is. It's so hard to push, and it's just so cool and really hard to control because it weighs 1,150 pounds. So it's rubber band ball part 62, and I wanted to try something a little bit different this time. I took about 5 pounds of bands and looped them all together like this with the help of my friend, and we had this long strand that we tried to wrap around the ball, but it was kind of hard, so I rolled it, and that was still pretty hard, and the bands kept falling off, but eventually we got it. But we wanted to test if the same amount of bands was better just placing the normal way. And after we placed that pile, we realized it was. So we got out 3 more bags and placed the entire pile. And these videos always take so long to make, so leave a like if you actually want me to keep going and adding onto this ball. It's just huge now. Just look at it again next to a basketball. And then we put it on the scale and weighed it in at 555 pounds. So again, like if I should keep going. So one day, someone commented on my video where I tested flex tape on a fish tank after breaking it like this, and it didn't really work. They said to try a bow and arrow in a plastic tank, so that's what I'm going to do. I got my bow out, this plastic tank, filled it all the way up, put the SpongeBob thing in there and the robo fish, and shot it. The arrow actually made a perfect hole I could try to repair. I pulled it out and all the water was spewing out, and I kind of messed up putting the tape on, so I had to cut some more and add more quickly. The water was running out, I added a 3rd piece, and the fish just barely survived. So one day, after people kept telling me to fill this giant 30-foot balloon up with helium instead of air, I went to Party City and got 2 helium tanks to try and make my dog Remy fly. First, I aired it up with the first one, like this, and it wasn't very much helium, so I got out the second one, and I really didn't end up with that much helium, yeah, but it's super expensive, so we're going to try to make it work. I was hoping Remy would run and the balloon would fly up, but she didn't really. She ran a little bit here, and then I got scared she was going to run into a tree, so I took it and couldn't make it fly. So sad. One day, I decided to run a mile on these moon shoes to prove to the comments that they weren't just a waste of money, and see if they actually helped me run the mile faster. And I haven't ran a mile in over a year, so this is going to be pretty hard as is. And I did notice the shoes actually gave me a little bit of bounce as I ran. I definitely can feel the boing. Kept on running with my brother behind me until eventually we reached almost half a mile, and I was exhausted. And my lack of training was starting to hinder the accuracy of this test because I got even more exhausted and had to take another break. But we were already approaching 7 minutes, and my brother left me. Kidding, I caught him. But I kept on going, and then another issue. It broke. I had to pry the bottom piece back on the shoe and keep on running. I was completely exhausted, but I had to push through to try to get a decent time, and we were finished at 15 minutes. Comment any other ideas. So one day I saw a TikTok of a guy making one of those spinny art paintings, and it looked really cool, like this, and I was like, I could try that and make one. I put some flex tape on some screws in wood, made the frame, and then I squirted some red, white, blue, and green in the corners until I had this. It looked pretty neat, so I took it outside and started spinning, and it kept on going and going until it looked like this, and I didn't think I was going fast enough, so I tried again, but it still looked the same. And yeah, mine wasn't quite as good as the other guys, but let me know what you think. So one day, a couple months ago, I ambushed my friend Brendan with this super powerful water gun. And today I decided to do it even better. Brendan told me he was at the gym working out and about to finish up. I filled the water gun completely up like this, and then it was ready to go. Here's a normal shot, and here's the most powerful shot. Then I shot around my dogs to try to scare them. Then I was ready to ambush my friend Brendan. I waited until he came out. Then I got a clean hit on him like this. He tried to run, but I kept on shooting. Then he came back.
I was like, what?
I acted like I was going to shoot him, then I just cleaned out the pavement and his car. Comment any other ideas. So one day I ordered this stuff called Great Stuff, which is basically expandable foam insulation. And my goal was to build a boat out of it. Not just any boat, a cardboard boat, because a while back I had a series on TikTok where I tried to make cardboard boats float, and I was never very successful. But I used the best cardboard boat design I knew how to make, and then I was going to cover the entire outside in the Great Stuff. And hopefully it'll float. So I finished taping up the entire bottom, like this. And I already had a decent looking boat. Then we covered the entire bottom in the Great Stuff. And then later we covered the rest of the sides. And when I came back the next day, it was solid looking. And it was ready to be tested in the creek. I walked it down and then got in. And I started to float away. It was working flawlessly without any problem. So I just kept on rowing and having a good time. And then I about ran into a tree. And then I started heading out further. And it was the best boat I'd ever made. I just kept going. So one day I wanted to build one of these air cannons that I kept seeing on videos. So I went to Walmart and got a trash can, a tarp, an elastic band, and some tape, and then I left. And I also ordered this humidifier on Amazon. It was pretty cool. I tested it out, and then I got to work building the air cannon. Putting the tarp over the hole, then putting this thingy on, and then I realized I did it completely backwards, so I had to redo it until it looked like this. And it was decently powerful and ready for the fog. I put it in there, and it made these awesome rings that went really far. It was so cool. They just went forever and ever. I shot over this can, and then shot the camera like this, then shot my rubber band ball myself like this, and then started shooting the ceiling. Let me know what else I should try.
Best friend. Hey, excuse me. What did you just call her? Best friend? Who's asking? Me, bitch. And no, she's not your best friend. She can be your friend, but that's my best friend. The fuck? I've known her for 2 years. No, and I've known her for 300 years. How about that? Oh my god, we can both be her best friend. No, the fuck? What is this, a KFC share box? I don't really care. I'll call her best friend whenever I want. Call her best friend again. I dare you. Okay. Best friend.
So one day my comments were amazed I was able to destroy a Nokia, so here I have another one that I bought for 25 cents. And when I slammed it, the back just flew off of it, so then I tried to roll my rubber band ball on it, and it was just kind of awkward because it wouldn't really go over it right. Eventually I just laid it down right here to run it over like this. We looked at it afterwards and it was pretty crushed. But I wanted it to be completely totaled, so I smashed it with this brick, and then I took his son, the younger Nokia. This is my 1,250 pound rubber band ball, and it's part 93. Today we're going to be adding 2 boxes, which is another 50 pounds of rubber band, which will get the ball all the way to 1,300 pounds. This is the longest part, where we looped the pile into 2 giant strands of bands until it was finished and we were ready to add them both on. And I asked you guys to vote on a name for the rubber band ball, and the winner is between Pablo and just the rubber band ball. Comment what you think we should do. Here I am standing on the ball, then falling off, and I just can't justify how big it is on camera. Like for me to keep on adding bands. So it's rubber band ball part 84, and I got another big box with 5 5-pound bags of rubber bands. And since the bands are too big to get on the ball now, we're going to have to loop them into 2 giant strands like this. We spent about an hour doing this, looping the entire pile until we had 2 giant strands. And we didn't know the best way to go about putting them on the ball. We moved everything out of the way and then realized eventually if someone was standing on a chair and then we ran around, it was easy, but it made us really dizzy. Eventually we finished off the entire pile using this method, and then for the second pile we moved the ball over a little bit to add bands on this side, and we figured out wrapping around like this was a lot easier and took like half the time. And the ball actually looks pretty cool now. I stood on it, then we pushed it onto the scale, and it weighs about 1,070 pounds. Like if I should keep on going. So one day I made this elephant toothpaste TikTok, and it didn't really work, so I kicked it and tried again with different stuff, and that kind of failed too. So I bought even more stuff, thinking I just ordered the wrong thing by accident, you know, but no, that's not it. So I tried again a week later with some more stuff, but first I was going to try it in a cup with a sample amount, and it kind of worked. So I went ahead and dumped all the stuff into the big jug to see if it would work. And it looked like it didn't, so I pretended to be a sprinkler, but then it started to overflow, and I sprayed it. So it's now rubber band ball part 71, and this ball is insanely massive at 750 pounds, but we're going to make it even bigger. And this time half the bands are these half-inch bands that I've never tested before, so we'll see how they go. And the bands were just really tight, so we ended up moving the ball to see if it would make it better, and it did, because none of the bands had been placed on that side that much. And it also helped make the ball more even. But eventually, after a long time, we were done. The ball is huge. Here I am trying to stand on it and walk on it and almost fall. I dropped some Orbeez on it, threw a water balloon at it, and crushed a water balloon, and then weighed it in at 777 pounds. So like this video if you want me to keep on adding bands. So one day, after seeing all these videos of people blowing bubbles with Jolly Ranchers, I had to try it out for myself. I got a bunch of Jolly Ranchers, put them all on this plate, and stuck it in the microwave for like 40 seconds. I waited until it was done, and they were like sizzling. I used this straw from my water bottle, spun it around, and tried to blow, but I only got this little bubble, so I tried again. I put them back in the microwave for a little bit less time this time, until it looked really good, so I tried again. And it was actually pretty insane. The bubbles just went everywhere. I wanted to keep on trying. I also wanted to taste it, which I did. It was pretty good. I melted some more and did one final blow. So yeah, this actually works and was a lot of fun. So one day, about a year ago, there was this trend on TikTok where people were making these abstract paintings and selling them on eBay for high amount of money. I made these 2 on my own that ended up bidding for a lot, but never sold. But I'm going to try my luck again. I went to Hobby Lobby, got a big canvas and some paint, and I was ready to make a highly valuable art piece. I decided to model it after my giant 1,000-pound rubber band ball. I started spreading out this blue paint, then a lot more, and then just dumped a bunch, trying to fill the entire background and make it blue. And after it was done drying, I came back with the yellow with a lot of swirls, trying to make the ball as abstract as possible and look really cool. I added the green and started kind of just doing that and mixing around until it looked like that. Then I started splattering paint everywhere, the white stuff, and tried to make it look starry and cool. And it ended up looking like this. I really liked it. I took some pictures of it, made the listing, and I called it Time Ball and gave it a really abstract, bizarre meaning. Follow to keep updated. So one day I bought a ton of cardboard sheets at Walmart to build the biggest cardboard boat I could make while still functioning. And I used to make cardboard boats all the time, but I hadn't made one in a while, and I felt like making a huge one. I pieced the boat together, taped it up completely, taped all the flaps down, flipped it over, taped this, and then put a bunch of sheets in the bottom. And after that was taped completely, we flipped it back over and then added another sheet, taped that down fully, and then I decided to add some Flex Seal. I did this to help waterproof the boat, and then I sprayed this on there. But I ended up coming back the next day and adding another coat anyway because it felt flimsy still. After that was done drying, it was time to test it out at the creek. I put it in the water, got in, and laid down. That was the only way I could be stable. The current wasn't very strong, so I tried to row without much luck, and then I saw a leak, and the boat started to collapse in. I kept on pushing, trying to stay afloat, but with no luck, we eventually went down, and I was never seen again. Not really, but I was pretty sad. It's now rubber band ball part 78, and the ball is so close to 1,000 pounds. The scales broke, but the ball should be about 945 pounds, and we're placing a bunch more bands. We eventually rolled the ball to a higher point, that way it would be easier to get the bands around the ball. We did this for a while until eventually we were done. This band flew in the sky. The ball should be about 970 pounds, and it's huge. My friend Brendan did this, then I fell off it onto a beanbag, and like if I should keep on going. So I'm now all the way to rubber band ball part 70. It knocked over all these crates, then I zeroed out the scale and weighed it in at 730 pounds, and it was time to add a bunch more bands. So my friend Brendan and I got busy placing this entire pile, which took so long, and we ended up taking a break and coming back the next day to finish it. But eventually it was done, and the ball is now even bigger. Look at it next to my head, me jumping on it, then me rolling it to Brendan, him rolling it back even faster, then dunking on it, and we weighed it back in at 755 pounds. So like if you want me to keep on adding bands. So one day after trying to make spin art that turned out alright, but not as good as I'd hoped for, I decided to try again. Because everyone kept saying all I needed to do was buy more paint. So I bought more paint and this tiny canvas to try it too. I just put a lot of blue paint on there, as you can see, then green paint, spread some yellow across the edges, and I thought it was ready. It was dripping, and when it spun, paint went everywhere, and it got up to really fast, and yeah, it didn't quite turn out how I hoped. It turned out worse than the last one, but then I tried the tiny canvas, put some paint on it, spun it, and broke it. And it turned out the exact same. I was sad. So one day someone commented for me to use hot glue sticks to try to get the dents out like 5-minute crafts. And I'm going to try because I put quite a lot of dents in this car with my rubber band ball. I went to Walmart, got some hot glue sticks, and then went home to fix these dents. The little lighter wasn't big enough, so I got out this blowtorch, stuck it on, and it pulled the metal but didn't work. So I tried again and still failed. Yeah. So I got out the longer stakes with more fire. Don't try this at home. And failed. And failed. And failed. And failed again. And then I tried to make a smaller dent with a bat, thinking the dents were too big, but that wasn't the case.
This is indeed cap.
So it's rubber band ball part 73, and I about knocked over a fan with it and struggled to make it over to the scale, but weighed it in at 800 pounds. But we're going to add even more bands. And the ball still looks kind of broken, so hopefully after we place all these bands, it looks a lot neater. And the ball is finally getting close to 1,000 pounds, which is what the scale maxes out at. And we kept turning the ball to make it as round as possible. And after a long while of placing bands, we were finished. And the ball does look a lot neater. I jumped on it like this. Then it accidentally moved the couch when I was trying to make it over to the scale. Brendan tried pushing it on, but failed alone. So we both had to push it, and it weighed 829 pounds. Then pushed it off and took it outside to show the cows. Yeah, they thought it was pretty cool. Like if I should keep on going. So one day after buying 2 of these 30-foot balloons, one that popped to a plunger and one that I tried to air up all the way, but the wind took a hold of it and popped it. So I bought a third one now to finally try to get it to 30 feet. I waited for a non-windy day and was sure to even wear gloves so I didn't get oil on the balloon. It kept on blowing up until eventually there were striations in the balloon and it popped. Here it is slow-mo several times. So that's maximum height. There was even a big cloud of dust. Comment any other ideas. So one day someone commented saying I should try to crush an old Nokia phone with my 1,200-pound rubber band ball. And I'm going to be doing this and testing the durability of a lot of older phones. And this slightly newer Nokia as well. We did a drop test with these 2 phones first and threw them like this and dropped a rubber band ball on them. And even rolled a giant rubber band ball on one of them and stuck it inside the rubber band ball as well. But now it was time to test the 2 Nokias. We did a basic drop test and the older Nokia held up the best. But now it was time to crush it. I could hear hear the crunch and it rolled onto the Nokia, but it honestly didn't even do that much damage. So I dropped a brick on it like this, and then dropped it on it again, and it was pretty destroyed. Comment what else I should try. So one day I let this penny decide if I would spend my $40 at Target if it lands on heads, or the dollar store if it landed on tails. It fell to the ground and landed on tails. The dollar store. The goal was to get the most bang for my buck and get like 40 items, but everything was way more than $1. I got silly string, a punching bag, the star balloon, a phone magnifier, this bubble gun, and the Sour Patch. And now it was time to test out my purchases. The Sour Patch was really good. Then I got out the silly string, sprayed it all over the wall and my brother. Then I tried to spray it all on the ceiling and it fell down. I was like, what? I hit the star balloon, blew up this punching bag, hit it too pretty hard. Then got out the phone magnifier, which actually worked surprisingly well. I could actually see my phone way bigger. And I saved the best for last, this bubble gun. So one day I filled an even bigger pool up with Orbeez. I filled the other one up with about 2 million Orbeez, and I'm gonna fill this one up with millions more. And we were gonna reuse the old Orbeez in this pool too, but they kind of smelled bad, so we just went with all new, and it looked like this. It was pretty insane looking and really colorful. Just millions and millions of colorful little orbs. I got in it and then splashed around, then jumped in and tried to swim across, then jumped off this mini trampoline, and I even put this inflatable zebra in there and tried to make it look like I was in a weird rap video, and fell in, like if I should add even more Orbeez. So this is part 2 of pranking my parents by dyeing their entire pool red with 3-day party pool dye. I got the pool entirely red, well, pinkish, and then I got the reaction. They looked pretty astonished at first and didn't really say much, but eventually they seemed kind of mad.
What the hell? How are you going to get it back to the normal color?
Not gonna. It's food coloring. I'm just kidding.
What is it?
It's like a 3-day party pool dye.
Oh, I was like, this
I
time
thought I was going to have to drain the whole pool.
One day I bought a ton of bubble wrap rolls to cover my entire body in bubble wrap and test if I would be safe rolling down a hill. And it took a while, but I had my brother cover me completely in bubble wrap, arms, legs, and everything, and it was really hot, but I felt strong and entirely ready to take on this hill. I walked up to it like this, got on the ground, and started rolling. I got up to pretty high speeds. You can't really tell on camera, but I was flying. And when I tried to stand up, I couldn't see straight. So one day when it was really cold, I had an idea to take my giant human hamster ball and put it on this frozen pool. We made sure it was safe, and then we put the hamster ball on the ice, and I got in and started airing up. It was really cool and cold. Then my brother threw a snowball at me. What a meanie. But I continued airing up all the way until it was completely full. Then I just started walking around, and it was really slippery. The hamster ball was literally sliding on the ice. It was so cool. I continued running in it and trying to make it slide as much as possible to see what would happen, and it felt like the most insane experience ever. Just me and a giant human hamster ball on a lake of ice. Let me know what else I should do in this hamster ball. One day, a while back, I tried to smash this giant water balloon with my giant 1,700-pound rubber band ball, but failed until the small rubber band ball took it out. Today, I have another giant water balloon, and I'm going to see what all random items I can use to try and break it. I got a llama, a watermelon, a pumpkin, and a bunch of other random junk, and then started filling the balloon all the way up like this. Eventually, the balloon was full, and it was time to test it out with the plunger, which didn't break, but it did suction. Then this llama that just broke. I then threw the pumpkin that surprisingly didn't do anything, and this tiny rubber band ball, and this water balloon. Then my watermelon didn't do anything either and was perfectly intact. The balloon was holding up really well, so I threw this hoverboard at it, and then I broke out the shovel. Yeah, like this video if you want to see me try with the giant rubber band ball again. So one day it was rubber band ball part 44, and first I had to get the ball out of the zip line. I got it out, and then I had to carry it all the way upstairs. I made it up, and then I took it to the room where I placed all my bands and got to place them. I placed the entire pile of like 15 pounds of rubber bands for quite a while until I was done, and I carried it all the way downstairs and weighed it in at like 164 pounds. Then I took it out to the street and just look at it. It's massive. Can't pick it up. I just can kick it. Like if you want me to keep on going. So one day my friend Brendan really wanted this brand new Inagi scooter I had. So I told him if he really wanted the scooter, he had to agree to a week-long challenge. At any point during the week, I could ambush Brendan with the world's most powerful Nerf gun. It shoots insanely hard. Brendan accepted the challenge and went off on his new scooter. It was going to be in Brendan's best interest to try to hide from me, seeing as he gets the scooter either way. So I spent the week trying to map out his entire schedule, attempting to follow him everywhere he went. Brendan was doing a pretty good job of avoiding me because I looked everywhere without much luck. But little did he know, I was always one step ahead. On the last day of the challenge, I camped out at his favorite place, the gym. Eventually, I found his scooter laying in the bush, so I knew he was there. I proceeded into the gym with my Nerf gun drawn, ready to make my attack, until eventually I saw him. There he is. Let's get him. So one day while I was filming a creek video, it all went pretty wrong. It all started as a pretty simple video. I just wanted to test this inflatable lounger out as a boat. You just get a lot of air in it like this, and then my plan was to sail all the way down the creek. The creek was freezing, so I was hoping I wouldn't fall in, and it was working pretty well at the start. I was basically just enjoying a pretty relaxing float trip with the goal of making it through all the heavy current, which the inflatable lounger did, making it through surprisingly well. The only thing is I forgot there was a fallen tree.
Don't pop it. No, stop. Oh God. Ah.
Yeah, I was really struggling to make it through the tree without falling in the icy cold water.
Shit. Lost the oar.
But somehow I managed to get all the way through the tree without falling in.
So I'm trying to live another day like I'm in Minecraft. The first thing you do in Minecraft is chop down a tree, which wasn't really working well for me. I tried shaking it, but it didn't fall down. So the next thing was building a house, which I just tried to do with materials I found around me. So I started placing these stones like this, and then I found these random wooden planks. Yeah, totally. Made a little structure, tried to use cardboard, but it failed. So I just put this air mattress over it, and I had a little base. And next was trying to survive in the snow biome. In Minecraft, you can build a campfire. So that was my first goal, build a fire. I tried rubbing sticks together, but it wasn't working. So then I remembered flint and steel like you actually use in Minecraft. I put some sticks, this, and started trying to spark it, but it wasn't really working. Until somehow it definitely lit without me using lighter, totally. I added more sticks and leaves to make the fire bigger, and remember, don't attempt this. I'm a pro. I made the fire, I was warm and ready for bed. Comment any other ideas I should try to survive Minecraft style in real life. So one day I found my old boat that I had previously flex taped a little bit of glass on and made a glass bottom boat out of. I decided I wanted to turn this boat into a boatmobile and put a bunch of wheels on it. So I went to the store and got some big giant wheels to attach to the boat. We took the wheels and attached them to all four corners of the boat like this, and then flipped it over and rolled it to the street to test it out. My goal was to make it fly down the road with ease. We took off and it was kind of squirrely going down the hill, and I kind of fell off the ditch. It wasn't really working, so then we just attached it to a lawnmower.
Puppy prank on my girlfriend! What? Nothing. Cat, do you want me to buy you a puppy?
Yeah.
Okay, first you have to clean my room.
What? Oh, okay.
Thank you, Cat.
Song, can I have the puppy now?
Nope, now you have to make me food.
Okay. Song, I got you donuts.
Oh, they look so good.
What? These are my donuts. Stop taking them.
Can I get the puppy now?
Alright, Cat, here's the puppy.
What? Song, this is a toy, not a real puppy. I'm breaking up with you.
What?
So I'm now to part 69 of my giant rubber band ball, and it's now over 700 pounds, but we're going to get it even bigger. I dumped out 25 pounds of bands to place on the ball, and I started placing with the help of my friend Brendan. And we actually placed 3 bands at once the whole time to make it go by a lot quicker. Until eventually we were done. I stood on it, and then tried to walk on it, and tried to walk again. It was actually kind of successful. Then I pushed it over here, dropped this ball on it, jumped on it, and then we tried to figure out how to get on the scale, and weighed it in at 727 pounds. So, like, if you want me to keep on adding bands. So one day I went into my room full of packing peanuts, and I had an idea. Fill this inflatable dinosaur costume completely up with packing peanuts. I walked around, fell down, threw a bunch of packing peanuts in the air like this, and then decided to get to work. I taped up the seams and holes like this, and then just began stuffing it as much as I could. I wanted to make a completely stuffed dinosaur teddy bear, but the zipper broke, and I tried to tape it, but it didn't really work, so I just threw it on the ground and body slammed it. Yeah, let me know what else I should try.
So one day someone commented telling me I should make the plane even bigger, so I put 2 boards together and made the plane even bigger. Here's the new one. But it still had a problem. The tip was raising up, so we added some weight on the tip, and it flew pretty good. Here it is flying into a tree. But I wanted to get it up on this roof to throw into wide open spaces, so I threw it up and then tried to figure out how to get up. And then I found this thing and used it as a ladder. I was up, and here's the first throw. It was kind of bad, but the next flight was actually pretty good. But I still wanted a perfect flight, so I threw it again, and this one looked like it was going to be perfect until it raised up a little bit and then did a flip. And then I threw it again, and this looked like the best flight yet. It was just sailing until it hit a tree. I also tested the store-bought plane, which flew pretty good, and then gave this one last throw into the field. And I'd say this plane was a success. One day I had Purple send me a mattress to test their famous raw egg test. They basically slam a bunch of eggs on the mattress, and no matter what, it won't break the egg. Inside the mattress was these mini mattresses that were super stretchy, because that's what they're made of. Then this mask, I opened up the mattress, unrolled it, cut open the plastic, and it aired up. It was pretty comfy. I was actually super impressed by the comfort. My dog even liked it. I had all these eggs to put it to the test. I first crushed one with the mini mattresses like that, and then I threw one at the mattress, tried to push on it, fall on it, and it just wouldn't break. So I tried on the couch as well, and it still wouldn't break. And even the rubber band ball wouldn't crush it. So then I tested the eggs, make sure they were still good. Yeah, they break. So I just chucked them as hard as I could, both at the mattress and the couch. They bounced off, and then I tried the 3-egg drop test thing. I fell flat on my back eventually, like that. And the eggs were perfectly fine, even after I fell like this. So I resorted to the 1,000-pound rubber band ball, which actually crushed them. And I was like, I'm going to take this cover off and see what's inside the mattress now. And it was actually pretty cool. I ripped this thing open, which I don't think you're supposed to do, but it felt really cool. Look at it. And it even holds the egg like this. Pretty cool mattress.
So one day I wanted to attempt to build shoes that would make me walk on water. So I went to Walmart and bought water repellent spray, some foam board, and some duct tape, and then I got to work building these shoes. This board floats pretty well like this. Then I sprayed it completely down with the water repellent, sprayed some on myself, then duct taped the boards to my foot like so, until eventually I had perfect water shoes that would allow me to run on the water. I stepped off the dock to start walking. Yeah, it broke. So one day someone commented that I should put really long pants on my kangaroo shoes to make it look like I was just super tall. But I couldn't find pants big enough, so I had to figure out how to create my own. I took 2 pairs of really big cheap jeans that I cut up to get around the kangaroo shoes like this, and duct taped it all on. I looked like some kind of weird cyborg, but it didn't look half bad. I tried to stand up with a fail, and then it was eventually up, and I felt pretty tall. I played basketball with the jeans on, and I finally looked like an NBA player. I then just took it outdoors where I looked like some type of farming cyborg. Then I just ran off into the jungle.
So it's rubber band ball part 76, and I tried to prove it weighs 870 pounds. But the scale's been broken, probably from the rubber band ball, but we're just going to keep adding bands anyway. We dumped out a huge pile of rubber bands and got to placing. And this really is a lot more work than it looks like, band after band for so long. We flipped it to make it cover the blue side, and then we were done. It looks really good, and it's probably within 5 pounds of 900 pounds. Here I am laying next to it, and then jumping on it and trying to run on it. I pushed the ball, tried to get a run, and then fell, and then did it again. Kind of got one. Yeah, pretty cool. Like if I should keep going to 1,000. So one day it was rubber band ball part 75, and I rolled it across the warehouse and then put it on the scale, and it weighed 842 pounds. We dumped out a whole bunch more rubber bands and got to placing. The ball is really heavy and hard to move around, so we do our best to not place the bands in the same spot and try to keep it as round as possible. We finished the pile, and the camera just doesn't do the ball justice. I've moved it to the distance to kind of get an idea of how big it is, and then I slammed into the ball, dunked on it, totally done, and then tried to move it with the hoverboard, but failed, so I spun around and put it on the scale, but we kind of broke it, and it wouldn't read, but it's probably 870. So one day, after trying to experience Minecraft in real life with my homemade Minecraft fishing pole and boat, I failed and sunk the boat and only caught this carrot. But in Minecraft, you can multiply your carrots by farming them, so that's what I'm going to try. I took my hoe and started hitting the land, and then I made a spot for my carrot. I pushed it in, let it sit in the ground, and then I planted another one right here. Bam. Yeah, I waited a couple Minecraft days until bam, I had way more carrots. Which gave me another idea. Tame a horse. But you normally use apples, but I'm gonna try carrots. I'm gonna make a horse my best friend. I went out and found this donkey. I gave it a carrot, and then I moved on to the horse, and it loved me. I could see the hearts forming above its head, and it was my stallion. So one day I was back at it working on my almost 1,200 pound rubber band ball. We had 25 pounds of rubber bands in front of us that we looped one by one into basically 2 giant rubber bands that we could then wrap around the ball like this, which is honestly kind of satisfying to watch. And at the end, we can also put it on the scale to see exactly what it weighs. Here's the scale that I spent a lot of money on, and it's supposed to read up to 5,000 pounds. But it doesn't read right unless you stand in this exact spot. Our first goal was just getting it to the scale, which is hard enough because it weighs over 1,200 pounds and is really hard to stop. And here was the real challenge, getting it up the ramp, because the problem is the ball is not perfectly round and it rolls everywhere. It honestly looked impossible, but we eventually got it in the exact spot. And it weighs pretty close to the estimate of around 1,200 pounds, so like for more. So one day I was dropping my giant 160 pound rubber band ball off a bucket lift, and I had some cool stuff to drop on it, including an inflatable pool, an air mattress, and a giant water balloon. I started with this, and it did that. Here's the underwater slow-mo. It hit the water so hard it did this to the ball. Then I got out the air mattress and dropped it on it as well, and it didn't even pop. Look at it. But it did lose some bands when it dropped. So then I tried again with the pineapple on it, but I missed the pineapple. Then I did the water balloon, and it completely smashed it. Here's the slow-mo. And then it rolled off and went into the woods, and it just kept going down this very steep hill. Like if you want to see how I get it out. So one day I ordered these bouncy moon shoes that I saw on TikTok off of Amazon. Here they are. They look pretty cool, and they're supposed to be really springy, kind of like my kangaroo shoes, and make you jump really high. I was pretty excited to test them out. I put them on, strapped it in, and then I was ready to go. And here's an up-close shot of me jumping. You can see the spring kind of activate. I ran around, jumped, and then I decided to get on the trampoline for some double spring action, and it actually kind of worked. I did this flip thing, and then I took it to the street to really test out the speed, and it actually helped me run a little bit, but jumping not so much. Then I tried to go upstairs, and it actually wasn't even that hard, so then I took it to a trail and ran a while, then came back and tried to really jump out, like if I should try to run 1 mile in these things. So one day I decided to test flex tape on a fish tank. I bought a robo fish to go along with it to swim in it. Then I opened up the tank, filled it completely up with water to the top, and then
then put the fish in and it started swimming. It was pretty cute, and I also gave it a little home. Now it was time to try to break the glass to see if flex tape would repair it, but the glass just wouldn't break, so I decided to use more extreme measures, this hammer, which eventually was too much and completely shattered it. Here's the slow-mo, and the fish just flew out. Poor fishy, but I still had the flex tape. I put it on and it looked like this. The fish still didn't have much of a home. So one day, people commented on my last TikTok telling me to go dumpster diving and take whatever I find to the pawn shop. And I wasn't really finding anything. Went to this bookstore, didn't find any books. Then I went to this dumpster, hopped in, and started digging around until eventually, after hours of dumpster diving, I found a Star Wars Pez dispenser that I took to the pawn shop. I walked in the store and he said,
"What in the world is that?"
"I've had this for a very long time. One of a kind Star Wars Pez dispenser."
Wow, that is pretty cool. No candy in it. Do you eat all the candy? It's worthless.
You just gotta buy the candy. I mean, it's a collectible. And then he asked me how much.
What do you think it might be worth?
$30.
How long have you had it?
Like, years.
Oh, is it like this one?
Then he started comparing it to ones on eBay.
Pez dispenser. You sure you didn't buy this on eBay for 99 cents?
That one looks different. I then did my best to convince him the true value of it.
I'd probably give you 50 cents because I think it's kind of cool.
And I knew I had to do it. He gave me the 50 cents and I used half of it for these Skittles. I was a winner after all.
I got my money back.
So one day someone commented that I should fill my inflatable hamster ball up with all these packing peanuts that were in this room. So that's what I did. I then pushed it downstairs to get in and air it up. I got in, let it air up for a little bit, and then I got a snowball thrown at me, ow, and then I kept on airing it up until it was full. And it was really cool inside and soft. I splashed around all the packing peanuts, and then did a roll, and it didn't even hurt because all the packing peanuts cushioned my rolling. I then kept on rolling, and it looked like a popcorn machine. Here's the inside of it. And then me running as fast as I can and falling into the packing peanuts. Then I wanted to see if I could completely hide in the packing peanuts like this, and it worked. Here I am though. I then ran a little bit more, got tired, and got out. Let me know what else I should try. So I'm now to rubber band ball part 43, and I got another box of rubber bands. I dumped them out, and these bands are even thicker than the last ones. I then dumped out another bag and got to placing them. And it was way easier to place these bands because they're twice as thick, and I got a lot more done with less time. I finished it up, and then I took it all the way downstairs to weigh it, and it weighed in at 149 pounds. I then took it out to the street to try to pick it up, and just look at it next to my head. It's huge, and I couldn't pick it up. Like if you want me to keep on going. So it's rubber band ball part 74, and the ball won't fit through a doorway. It's over 800 pounds, and it's looking kind of rough, but we're on our way to 1,000 pounds, and we're going to get it. We dumped out a bunch more bands, and we've been using this same band for a while. They still work on the ball, but we almost need bigger bands. We kept on placing until it was done. And it's actually getting hard to jump on because it's so tall. I pulled a stray band onto it, and then crushed this box, and then pulled it to the scale. And at first, the scale was acting broken, but eventually it weighed in at 842 pounds. So, like if you want me to keep on adding bands. So one day, I put my 150-pound rubber band ball back on the zip line to crush this car. And it was just a parts car my dad had laying around, so it wasn't a big deal. Pulled it back and threw it at it. And here's the slow-mo caving in that door. Then we saw a cat, and then I threw it at it again. And missed because we moved the truck, so we moved it again and threw it again. And this time it nailed it. It was a pretty big dent, but I still wanted more, so we did it again. And it knocked over the GoPro. Then we did one last go, and it was like the biggest dent yet. Let me know what else I should smash. So one day, after people kept commenting for me to spend 24 hours in the storm shelter, I decided to sleep in it. I shoved an air mattress down there, had my MREs, and I was ready to sleep in it. I then left and came back later that night to actually sleep in it, because I wasn't going to stay in there the whole time. I set up my lantern, turned on these lights, and I was ready to go. And it was pretty cool. I laid down and tried to go to sleep, and then my brother came out to check on me like 2 hours later. We talked for a bit, he told me the time, and then he left, and I ate my MREs. And I didn't put water in the eggs for they were bad, but the ice cream sandwich was still good. And then I went to sleep. And here I was the next morning, and it wasn't that bad a sleep. So one day I ordered jumbo Orbeez to see if they were that much bigger than regular Orbeez. I filled it up in this container full of water, and I didn't know how much water to add, so I just added this much, and 24 hours later, it all looked like this. They were really big. Here's a size comparison to regular Orbeez. They looked like little bouncy balls, so then I tried to bounce them, and then this one broke. So then I took this one and bounced it and broke it like this. But they look so cool, I decided to taste one. Don't try them. Then we found this clear one that turned me upside down, and this one was even more round. So let me know what else I should do with these. This is the first ever rubber band trampoline. 100 pounds of rubber bands on this trampoline frame. I'm going to be getting on it and testing it out. It's hard to kind of get on because the bands are kind of scattered until you get to the center. And now we're going to try bouncing. It's easier to bounce on like your back and your stomach because you cover more bands. The hard part when you go to stand up and bounce. Whoa, dude.
So it's rubber band ball part 103, and we ordered over 1,000 pounds of rubber bands to place on the ball. I literally have enough rubber bands to get my ball all the way to 3,000 pounds. We also got these crazy red rubber bands that we've never used before. So we got to it. We're going to loop these 2 boxes, starting with the natural rubber bands that we looped like this, which always is a fun process, just looping nonstop, eating french fries, and placing onto the ball. Then we took a break afterwards and came back the next day to do all the red rubber bands, which created this one really long strand of bands. So we took it out to the street to see how long it was, and it was crazy. It was like a giant jump rope, except really heavy to pick up. Then we placed all the red bands on the ball, and it should weigh over 1,800 pounds now. Like and stay tuned for more.
So one day, after 2 years of taking this tiny rubber band ball to the pawn shop and a bunch of other random stuff, I was tired of being underpriced.
I don't think I'd give you $10 for it.
So I had a plan. I would stick it to the pawn shop and create my own pawn shop right in front of his, proving that all my stuff was really as valuable as I said it was. He was gonna regret rejecting all my offers. And now it was just time to sit there and wait for the customers to roll in.
This isn't going as planned.
And shortly later, the pawn guy came out.
Dude, what are you doing out here? Dylan's pawn?
I started my own pawn shop because you wouldn't buy anything from me.
Probably get arrested for not having a business license, tax license.
I didn't know what he was on about, so I just showed him my stuff.
Is this a new plunger?
A rubber band ball, my beautiful painting I made,
It's just as ugly as I remember it.
a Rubik's Cube.
It's not even solved.
I got this cool thing. It's like a punching bag.
You think you're going to be able to sell that?
I'm gonna sell it for big money.
And just as I was done showing him my stuff, he said this.
I'm thinking you're probably going to have to pack up and leave.
You don't want me here?
I'd probably give you $20 just to leave. I'm here in 10 minutes.
So you guys keep wanting me to add way more rubber bands to this giant rubber band trampoline I've been working on. So that was the plan. I was going to add even more rubber bands. But as soon as we got started, we noticed an issue. The metal was literally bending, and I was scared it was going to break. And I didn't want that to happen. So I bounced on it a few more times with my brother like this. We went really low, and then we started just disassembling the entire trampoline. It was really sad, but I didn't want it to hurt us, and the trampoline was fun while it lasted. Comment anything else we should turn this trampoline into, but now it's a trampoline. So one day, my brother was just metal detecting when he stumbled upon this old pocket watch buried in the ground. We wanted to know more about it and what it was worth, so I had the idea to take it to the pawn guy we always go to. My brother Jack, he's metal detecting in our backyard, and we found this really valuable pocket watch. It's really old and antique-like. We think it might be rose gold or something.
Well, we can test it.
Said Hong Kong and
Hong Kong. They're not really known for their quality watches.
He looked into it with this little thing,
Hong Kong made.
and then did a scratch test in this little droplet thing to see if it was actually gold.
It is not gold.
How much do you think this thing's worth then?
I would probably just go put it back in the yard.
Disrespected. So one day, a while back, I made this trampoline out of rubber bands, and it was really cool until we destroyed it like this, and had to throw it away. But today I had the idea to recreate it with a big trampoline and even bigger rubber bands. We then got out a big pile of bands that we made into this giant loop, and it wasn't really working. So I realized I had to create a bunch of different strands of bands that perfectly stretched across the trampoline, which was a process. We looped all these rubber bands and then took them to the trampoline and started placing them on. And after a little while and a lot of bands, I tried to get on it, but it wasn't ready yet. So we continued until we had all the rubber bands placed completely on the trampoline, and then we tested it out. We couldn't believe it. It was actually holding us up perfectly, and it was super bouncy. It looked so cool underneath, and here's me on top of it. It felt like just a giant bouncy web. Then my girlfriend jumped on it and almost hit the bottom, and my brother almost fell through. So like if I should jump off the roof. It's rubber band ball part 88, and the ball weighs over 1,100 pounds. And it's going to take a very long time for us to build this ball up to the world record. So comment if you really want me to keep going. We looped 2 giant piles of rubber bands, did some jump rope with one of them, and then decided to place them on the ball. And while we're doing this, sometimes we forget about the fact that we're in front of an 1,100 pound rubber band ball. It's kind of crazy. We finished the ball and it's huge at 1,125 pounds. Comment your ideas for it. So one day I wanted to spend a day in my kangaroo shoes that are supposed to make you run really fast and jump really high. They're really hard to balance on, so this is going to be hard. I tried to pick up this basketball but fell into my ball pit, so I had to scooch all the way over to the couch to get myself up. And I was up. I then did some more everyday tasks like throwing away the trash, going upstairs, which was very hard, and using the bathroom, which was hard too. Just kidding. I washed my hands, and then I had to go downstairs by scooching, and then I decided to take my dog on a walk. It was pretty good at first. She enjoyed it. Here I am running back, her following along, and then I slipped on ice almost. I tried to relax in him for a bit and watch this awesome rubber band ball guy, and then I went to the gym, where I was going to get a sick workout with my kangaroo shoes. I had to have someone hand me the dumbbells because I couldn't bend over, and then I did some more curls, some pull-ups, some leg raises, and then I jumped down and was feeling good and motivated, so I decided to try to hit 2 plates. I went down and, no, was stuck. But no worries, I I just got up and walked off in my kangaroo shoes. So one day, to prove to the people in my comments that these shoes actually work, I took them to the gym to test their agility against my friend Brendan, who is considerably more athletic than me. We both did this bounce thing like this and did it fairly easy. Then I pushed this sled, which was a bit of a struggle, and hopped on this thing, which was also a struggle, but Brendan did it pretty easy. I eventually got the hang of the box jumps like this, but Brendan could still do it better. Then I just randomly had an urge to try a bunch of random things in the gym, like this stair stepper thing that I got going pretty fast on actually, and was still able to do it. Then my friend Austin wanted to try squatting. He did the bar first. We were trying to test if the shoes gave him a boost on the way up, but I think it just made it harder. He also tried to deadlift. Remember, don't try this at home. We are trained professionals. Then I decided to race my friend Brendan, and sadly he won. So overall, I just think the shoes make it lighter on your feet. So one day I took my $177 moon shoes that are supposed to make you jump really high, and I tried to play basketball with them. I wanted to test if they could make me a better basketball player, and here's me jumping off the rubber band ball and falling. So then I took them to a gym, and it didn't start off very good. I kept missing like this, but I decided anyway to challenge the tallest guy in there to a 1v1. I missed my first shot, but so did he, so it's okay. The only real advantage I could feel was the height. I eventually made one with really bad form. Even though the shoes helped me, he was just way more athletic than me, and he was also already 6'8". But hey, look at the shoes can make me do this and this. Whoa. So one day after I filled this giant hamster ball completely up with packing peanuts, people kept commenting, telling me to fill it up completely to the top. So that's what I'm going to do. I unzipped the ball and started pouring until it reached the top. It was so full. I stepped into it and it was really deep. Put my head in and put the blower in and started airing it all the way up. Once it was aired up, I rocked around, splashed the peanuts, and then started running. You couldn't even see me because of all the packing peanuts. And remember, don't try this at home. I'm a pro. I did 2 big rolls in it, like this, and then I just started running. And you couldn't even see me until I stopped. Here I am chilling. I threw some peanuts at the camera and then ran off into the distance.